We arrived in Prague on a snowy night after a day with travel mishaps and a long bus ride, but that didn't stop us from using the evening to explore. We walked to a nearby Czech restaurant to try some traditional foods and leaned into a drink mix-up which delivered us beer instead of wine. We wandered around the Old Town Square and navigated the narrow, winding streets that visually depicted winter magic. Gentle snow falling and crunching underfoot, and the cold air pinching rosy cheeks, invigorating the night. After admiring brightly colored buildings and their ornate facades, we headed to London Underground, expecting to find a karaoke bar and have a few drinks and watch people perform. When we walked in, we were greeted with great vibes, the buzzed and cheerful crowd dancing and singing along to a live performance. After some more songs and a few drinks later, we were ready to head back to the apartment. The next morning, we tried to go to a farmer's market, which unfortunately was closed during winter. We walked to a cafe and on the way stopped to admire flocks of ducks and swans on the river. We enjoyed some warm beverages and croissants while planning the rest of our day. We made a pit stop to take some film photo booth pictures and admire Craner's Fountain, watching children and adults alike enjoy playing in the snow along the whole route. We browsed a museum that boasted Prague's history and then decided to get an early dinner to make up for our daily diet consisting solely of pastries. We were so pleasantly surprised to wander in a random, cozy restaurant, scoring the last unreserved table and one of our favorite meals of the trip. We briefly browsed the racks of a vintage store before meeting up with Alyssa's uncle and his lovely girlfriend, who just so happened to also be visiting the city. We realized that the film photo booth was just across the street and couldn't resist taking some more pictures. The next day, we were greeted by an interesting water fountain as we entered the Kafka Museum, offering some insight into his upbringing, professional life, and varying works. Across from the museum was a gingerbread shop straight out of Hansel and Gretel, where we stopped for some treats. Unfortunately, there were none of the usual roaming peacocks to be found at Vinovi Sadi Park, but we were able to enjoy the bright, crisp views provided by fresh snowfall. Although lots of planning goes into international travel, one of my favorite aspects of traveling anywhere remains to be following the heart's intrigue, wandering into unexpected and lovely places we might never have otherwise found. So naturally, we entered the bookshop and Alessa left with a short story by Czech-French author Milan Kundera, which we were able to read on our next bus ride. On our way to Prague's Old Royal Palace, we admired street art, churches, and snowy views of the city. We arrived pretty late in the day, giving us just enough time to check out St. Beatrice Cathedral and come back the next day to see the rest. That night, we treated ourselves to an Italian dinner at Pasta Fresca, complete with bruschetta, wine, and tiramisu for dessert. We also decided to visit this interesting museum, which at times left us speechless but was also informative. Being seated at the front table of the jazz show was my favorite part of the trip because not only could I watch the musicians play their instruments so masterfully, but also play off each other. As promised, we returned the next day and toured the palace and Golden Lane, a row of homes to encapsulate not only the grandeur of the palace and the cathedral, but the lives of the common people that lived and worked there as well. We were so pleasantly surprised to discover Prague's National Museum with their abundant collection of minerals, replicated prehistoric animals, and their collections of artifacts which span centuries. Our final meal in Prague was at Naše Maso, a must-visit for fresh meats and delicious sandwiches. Ahoy!